Good day. During the first day of MINEX Forum 2011, we are talking much about environmental protection and environmental management. And today we have the possibility to talk with Jan Lewis, Director of Wardell Armstrong International, who are the gold sponsors of MINEX Forum 2011. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, in Russia we still have the situation when environmental management and environmental protection mean different things. Is it so actual, and where is the interaction between environmental management and protection?
Well, I think this is a common theme, actually. Environmental protection means protection of the environment. So which parts of the environment? Well, that'll be soil, water, air. And there are systems in Russia, as there are around the world, of dealing with that and protecting that. So monitoring the emissions to the atmosphere or to land or to water, and setting criteria and then making sure that you don't exceed them or reducing them. Environmental management systems has the word management in it, and that's the key to it really. It's everything. So it's having a system set up within a company or within a site that deals with the management of all environmental issues, not just the simple pollution and emissions, but everything. So this would include, for instance, how you deal with mine closure, community issues. So it's an overarching system. Now, with countries that have quite advanced pollution protection systems, they may feel they don't need to have a full environmental system. They may feel as if they're already doing everything. So maybe that's why the two things are still separate here, because Russia has got some fabulous people, fabulous scientists, a very good regulatory system, but maybe they think that they're doing everything okay, so they don't need this overarching management system.
Okay, and so what are the main elements of environmental management system?
Well, an environmental management system is quite a complex process, but can be boiled down, can be reduced to a number of key elements. Clearly there has to be a policy, so there has to be commitment within the company to set up the system, and that commitment has to spread throughout the whole ethos of the company, so everyone is bought into it. So the board level might decide that that's what they should do in terms of a company, but they can't do that unless all the sites and process plants are all aligned in the same way. So that's why there has to be this overarching policy. There has to be the commitment. There has to be the resources to do it. So the company will have to set time, money and people aside to specifically implement the system. They then need to review where they are at the moment and decide what the differences are between where they are and where they need to be to implement the system. They then need to look at all the various aspects. So an aspect, for instance, could be emissions to water. They then need to look at the impacts they're having at the moment. What impact are they having on that piece of water, and how could they improve? So there's a whole series of looking at aspects and impacts. They then set themselves targets and a monitoring system. So this is an ongoing process of continual improvement. So how are they affecting the environment, or how are they affecting local communities? What level is acceptable? How often do they monitor that? And then what do they do about it if they're exceeding it in any way? So this is an ongoing system of auditing and monitoring. So they're the key elements of an environmental management system. And I've been using the word community quite a bit because I think these are systems to cover all aspects of environment and community. So we try and use the term now environmental and community management systems.
And in what way environmental management and community relation system can be integrated into whole management system of mine project?
If an environmental management system is in place, then all aspects will be covered. So all aspects of environment and community. So it isn't just the pollution side of things, it's the whole life of mine, it's the ongoing process of the company and its head office, as well as its effects on the environment, anything external and communities. So the whole thing will be wrapped up together. Clearly, communities are important. If you affect I mean, in terms of people, you can affect your own people with health and safety issues, for instance, so just dust or that sort of thing. But if it's in terms of external, then, for instance, a mine may encourage people to come and work at the mine. And what would be unacceptable would be for a mine to suddenly close and then all the people to lose their jobs. Another example would be a mine next to a community. The community might provide services and products to that mine, food, for instance. And again, if the mine was to suddenly shut, then the livelihoods of many people would cease. And again, that's unacceptable. So this is all part of the process. So you've got to think about this right from the start of a mine or a process plant right through from closure. And this is the advantage of an environmental management system. It allows a company, which may have many, many different assets, as a rolling programme to continually assess where they are and making sure that they've considered all aspects. So I see that no problems with the community, because if you have an environmental management system, the community will be included in those assessments. Whereas if you just stick to dealing with pollution and prevention, that's very narrow, it's very good, but it's only part of an environmental management system.
Okay, and can you give examples of implemented environmental management and community relations system for mining companies, mining projects in Russia?
This is a difficult question. I don't think necessarily Russia are maybe quite as advanced as some other countries. Clearly, there are many mining companies doing some great work in Russia, and they may not necessarily have systems aligned to international standards. But when we review the projects, and maybe international financing is involved, it is very clear that they're doing all the right things. And maybe if there are some small gaps, then maybe they implement improvements. But to actually have a formal system, an environmental management system, and maybe to an international standard like ISO 14001, then there aren't so many examples of those. And in fact, we had quite a few questions on this morning at the masterclass that Wardell Armstrong International ran. And there was a view from the audience that, for instance, in Kazakhstan, one of the leaders there may be Kazakh Miss, they have slightly less sophisticated systems in terms of pollution and monitoring. So because they haven't got that background of dealing with that, they've just gone straight to international standards and implementing an overall system. Whereas maybe in Russia, they're used to doing it the way they have up until now in terms of pollution control. So maybe they think they don't need another system, and they'll do it their own way. And there's nothing wrong with doing it your own way. But there are these international standards out there that everyone will recognise, and if international funding is involved, or if you're reporting in any way to the stock exchange, for instance, and there are issues in terms of with companies in terms of investor relations or public consultations, then it's much easier if you have these international standards. So, for instance, I mean, we work with Polyus, and Polyus have introduced ISO 14001 on individual sites, individual mine sites. But as yet, I don't think they've got an overall system for the whole of the company. So I think this is something that will change, but I do think it's early days at the moment for Russia.
Okay, and the last question, additional. MINEX 2011 has just begun, but how do you like the beginning?
Well, I like MINEX very much. I'm heavily involved in the Central Asia one, and clearly we're here as gold sponsors in Moscow. We have recently opened an office in Moscow, so I think our involvement and enjoyment with MINEX will only continue.
Thank you much.
Okay.